You're live. I am live. I'm alive. Ah! You'll see why I did that. It could have been much louder, but my kids are trying to sleep, so I don't want to do anything. So, hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Dylan Knows, episode 454, Space Goats. It's is it still? Yep. It's 11:52 p.m., so it's still Saturday, July 9th. That's weird. I have very little bars and my modem is right here. So, okay. Whatevs. Anywho, it is still Saturday, July 9th. It is still my cousin Amanda's birthday. My cousin Amanda is roughly about 3 weeks older or younger than I am. I should say 3 years younger than I am. So, I was born June 20th, 1973. She was born July 9th, 1973. So I had a birthday to her. So that was fun. Thor Love and Thunder came out this week, and my wife and kids and I went to see it, and you'll hear what I have to say. Spoilers will be abounded a little bit, so keep that aware. Local team makes good. The Baltimore Orioles baseball team is doing extraordinarily well. We had a lot of death. We haven't had a lot of death for the last few weeks, but this week made up for it in a really big way. There's also some bad stuff happening to bad people, which is good. Some blowback from what this shithole country is doing with abortion. A lot of birth also. There's some really good births, out there. A lot of animals that are being born in captivity, which is helping repopulate the species, which is good. We'll have anniversaries. Captain America 4 has found its director. Farmer finds something huge. Paul Rudd is the nicest guy, one of the nicest guys in the whole world. Johnny Depp's next film is set. Outer Space Telescope is going to take a look at planet near us, and rockets are going to a local star. College football, conspiracy theories, this week in the apocalypse, George Clooney's Batman nipple suit, which has been a good episode name for this as well. Stray Dogs, Taika Waititi's all over the place for obvious reasons. And as I said, anniversary, Stranger Things, a new raccoon, Godzilla, Joey Chestnut, Kate Bush, Austin Butler, Taron Egerton, The Full Monty, Daredevil, DoorDash, Mike Epps, Sasquatch Skulls. Oh, man, we got all kinds of stuff this week. We've got 4.5 pages of stuff. Pokemon. We got all kinds of cool stuff. So let's get started right now. What have I killed? How much time right now? 3:19. All right. First up, as I said, it's July 9th, almost July 10th. My last show was before Independence Day. So we had a interesting Independence Day. My family was having a family reunion at my uncle's house. My dad's side of the family, he has, 5 other siblings. Some of them have families, some don't. And I was thinking that most of us would all get together. Turned out that not as many people showed up as I thought there was, but still, all the siblings showed up, which was unexpected because I had one that lives in Georgia, one that lives in South Carolina, one that lives out in Illinois, a bunch in this area, one lives in Florida. So you get them all back up here. And they spent some time together leading up to 4th of July, which was good. And then I ran into some people I hadn't seen in a while. My stepbrother, who I hadn't seen, since his wedding in like 2019, 2017, something like that. 2019, I think. Haven't seen him since then. Him and his wife and their new baby. Saw my pregnant cousin and her almost 2-year-old. She was adorable. What else did I run into? It was really kind of the same old. My other cousin is engaged, and I'm got to see her fiance again. Met him last 4th of July, so got to talk to him a little bit more this time. My brother-in-law and my sister came up, which was nice, and one of my nephews, my other one couldn't make because he had to work, so that was nice. Both of them went up there. So it was a nice visit. I was hoping to play a little more badminton than I did, but because I'm getting older, I played one round with me and my daughter versus who were we playing? Richard and my cousin's husband and Adam and my brother-in-law. And we lost, but I was having a lot of trouble breathing. My heart was, and I felt like I was going to have a heart attack, but didn't. So I didn't play anymore after that, which was a shame. I kind of wanted to, but I did get to talk to my Aunt Kathy a lot, who's the one from Atlanta, and I got to talk to my Uncle Jimmy a little bit, not much. He's running for House of Representatives, the House of Representatives. He's not going to win, but at least he's trying to make a difference. Talk to my brother-in-law, talk to my dad, to my stepmom, I haven't seen for a while, talk to my stepbrother, talk to my stepsister-in-law, talk to my cousins. It was my cousin Paul. I hadn't seen him talked to him for a while. So kind of some nice little visit, but it was weird is that normally we have fireworks like start around July 1st and go through like July 7th. In this area, it's at least one bit of fireworks here and there. I heard some July 1st, heard none July 2nd. Of course, it was raining a lot on July 2nd. And then July 3rd was a Sunday. That was when we got the massive amount of fireworks. Now, Oregon Ridge, which is a park nearby here, they do their 4th of July fireworks every year. But this year, because 4th of July is on Monday, I guess they figured more people would show up for a weekend one. So they do a concert with the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra, the BSO, and then they do fireworks after the concert. So that happened. And I think maybe the ones over in Carroll County did some a little bit. But we also have people who go and use our middle school field, which is over that way. And you can hear that really close for stuff like that. They blew their stuff up on July 3rd. So July 4th rolls around. So I'm sitting at home after the family reunion. I hear some fireworks from probably one of the other places down over in Westminster area, but nothing in the local area. And then it was silent. And then I haven't heard any since. So it's just been that's kind of a weird sort of situation because it was balls to the wall last year. And obviously 4th of July was on a Sunday last year. 3rd was, so you could do all weekend, but still, I expected more fireworks, but I'm not complaining, so that was fine. And then back to work, so the week was blur. I felt a little off late last night, and most of today, so I don't know if I'm getting sick again. But I had a headache before I did the show, but I took some aspirin. It seems to go me away, so that's good. Before I get to the Thor thing, let's do some other stories real quick. Missing South Carolina man was found 2 months later, having accidentally fell into a plastic shredder. I can't even imagine what happened there, but the plastic shredder he fell into it, just like ugh. And it is now after midnight. It is now Sunday, July 10th. Actually, it isn't yet, according to this. Now it is. So yippee. So that was kind of off-putting. Bit closer to home, the Baltimore Orioles, who are my baseball team, they've been undergoing a radical rebuild for the last 4 years or so. And they actually, before then, in the 21st century, they were kind of crappy for a while. Then they got good for a while. Then they got crappy again. They got really, really crappy. They started this rebuild, and because of COVID and stuff like that, the rebuild sort of got screwed around a little bit. So finally, we're starting to see dividends now, our 4th or 5th year into this rebuild. The Orioles are now 42-44, which last year it took almost an additional 40 games before they hit their 42nd win. So they're doing very good this year. And this week alone, they have a 7-game winning streak. So they've won for a full week right now. Games are all close. And 5 of the 7 games that they've won this week have been where they've given up runs. They were leading, they gave up runs, and the other team went ahead, and they came storming back to tie it. And then a couple of them were in extra innings that they won in extra innings, and a couple of them were walk-offs. The 4th of July game was a walk-off on a walk-off hit by pitch, which very rarely happens. And then some really good pitching. Like today, the final score of today's game was 1-0. So pitcher's duel game there. So Orioles have 7 wins in a row. They're not going to really go anywhere because the freaking New York Yankees have only lost like 20 games and 86 games have been played, something like that. So yeah, it's not going to really. But the fact that they are a much better team this year than they have been for the last 4 or 5 years is outstanding. So kudos to those. I love when bad things happen to bad people. Boris Johnson, who is the prime minister over in the UK, who is basically UK Donald Trump, looks exactly like him and is a conservative asshole. Not as bad as the fucking guy. I just said his name. I'm not gonna say it again, but still bad enough. And did the whole Brexit thing and stuff like that. His own people, the Conservative Party, have turned on him and have forced him to resign as head of the party. So that was kind of a good thing about that. There was a lot of outcry when Elon Musk said he was going to buy Twitter. That was months ago. And everybody who has known him and has seen him before is like, there's so much ado about nothing. He's not going to buy Twitter. He's going to back down on it. Nothing's going to happen. He's done this before and he's going to do it again. And yeah, sure enough, they were correct. He is no longer going to buy Twitter, and Twitter is suing him, which is good because he's an asshole. So good on that. Now this is good. So a couple weeks ago, I went totally apeshit over the Roe versus Wade overturning and the laws and stuff like that. Where in Texas, they're saying that an unborn baby is a person, which I'm not even going to go into that detail anymore. You can watch that episode. It's about 2 episodes ago. It's called Anger Management. The anger management, I should say. Anyway, so that's the law in Texas, is that an unborn baby is a person. So a pregnant woman was pulled over by the police in Dallas, Texas, for driving in the HOV lane alone. Remember, HOV, you have to have at least one other person in the car with you in order to drive it. It's a specific road to help congestion on the highways, but the deal is you have to have an extra person in the car with you. We have them here too. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Just expand the road. I don't understand, but it's a way to make money. I think you charge a toll to drive on it sometimes, I think, but it is faster because more cars stay on the regular highway and not on the HOV lane. So she's driving along by herself. Police officer pulls her over and is going to fine her for $215. She's fighting the fine because according to Texas law, there's an unborn baby inside her because she's pregnant that is considered a person. So technically, she was driving with 2 people because her pregnant belly is a person inside of it, according to this law in Texas. Now, in the anger management episode, I read you a line from the Bible where God said life does not begin until breath is taken, and that's after they're born, but we're not going to get that. She was playing the field exactly correct. She said, this is your law. You said this is a person, so I cannot get fined because I was driving with a person in the car with me. So I don't know what happened with that, but I thought that was outstanding, and we need to do more stuff like that. To stick it to them. It's like, okay, you're going to force us to do this law, so we're going to start taking advantage of these loopholes and stuff like that. That's what we need to start doing. So I guess let's talk about Thor Love and Thunder now. So real quick before I get to that, a lot of people were expecting it to only make around what Doctor Strange made because they figured Doctor Strange is the kickoff of summer. It made $186 million its first weekend. So they figured that, okay, Marvel, COVID stuff still happening. People aren't as flocking to the movie theaters as much. This summer has proven them different, but that's besides the point. Anyway, they were estimating somewhere around that same window for Thor Love and Thunder. Boy, did they get that wrong because they have no idea what they're talking about. Thursday night, it looked like at first that maybe they were going to be right because Thursday night, it made, I think, 29 million on its first on the previews, 29 million previews, which puts it at the 5th best Thursday or third best Thursday in Marvel history. And Doctor Strange did more than it with 36 million. So people are like, okay, yeah, this looks to be about right. Then Friday hits. Now remember, May 5th, when Doctor Strange came out, school was still in session. Kids were not out and about, and parents did not have a summer schedule. Some have summer schedules, some are able to work from home or whatever, or they take more vacations, whatever. But they don't have that. They didn't really do that May 5th. This is July 9th, or rather, I should say July 8th is when it came out. So Friday's box office numbers was 69.2 million. Nice. Which added to the numbers from Thursday puts it really close to $100 million for Thursday and Friday. For Friday, which a lot of people are still working, obviously, but kids are off school and stuff like that. So for a Friday, it made 69.2 million, which is a lot more, obviously, than Doctor Strange made on its Friday debut. So we'll get the Saturday numbers probably tomorrow, and then they will make a prediction on Sunday's numbers, so we get an idea of how much it is going to make, and then they'll get the proper numbers on Monday when they get the numbers. But I was in the movie theater today. When I bought the tickets on Friday, there was 2 other people in the theater when I bought them. I bought them in advance. And when we got to the movie theater, there was a bunch more people in that theater. And there was a bunch more people in the parking lot. There was a bunch more people in the movie theater. And then when we left, because we went to the 4:30, and when we left around 6:45, that place was jumping with people. So more and more people. This is just a small theater in Owings Mills, Baltimore, or Owings Mills, Maryland, I should say, a suburb of Baltimore, Maryland. And there was a ton of people there. Parking lot was packed, and the line for the snacks was long, and the line to get tickets was long. So we're probably looking at another good thing. So right now they've updated it, what they believe is going to be maybe closer to a $244 million opening. So we'll see how the numbers roll out for that. So that's absolutely outstanding if that is in case what they do. It also took in 150 worldwide. It opened worldwide starting on Wednesday, so their numbers are still coming in. So we might get, a bigger batch of numbers like that. So it could totally be a huge hit there. So we'll see what happens with Thor. So is it worth it? Hell yes, it's worth it. Now, when I was reading the reviews for it, now real quick, spoilers are coming up. I might not go into full detail because I do kind of want to leave some things for surprise. But I do just want to talk a little bit about it because this is my only outlet. I used to do a show with a guy named MJ Khan, who was a comic fan, and we would sit there and we would just spoiler everything. We would both watch it opening weekend, and we'd come back on a Saturday, Sunday, and we would just blow up the whole thing. That was what the whole episode was about. So now I got to do this sort of one-sided, which is sucky, but it's the way it is, unfortunately, the way YouTube is doing stuff now. But when I was originally reading the review stuff, I didn't read any spoiler stuff this time. I do sometimes, but this time I wanted to go in without anything going on. Normally, I also see the movies when they open, like the Friday they open. Usually, I take off of work and had to take a vacation day and then go see it opening day by myself during the day. But because I was off all last week, no, not all, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday last week, and my kids are home now. Whereas, if I would go see it May 5th or in November, which is what I'm thinking about doing for Black Panther, because I have some vacation time, I might take the Friday when Black Panther 2 comes out and go see that in the movie theaters on Friday before I see it with the family. Because I like to see it before they do, just because I like to do things on my own sometimes. I know I'm an awful person. Regardless, but because the kids are home now from school for summer, I really can't stay home because they would know I'd be home. I mean, I could stay out and find stuff to do around, but that takes some hard time. And I do need to, since I'd already took off, 3 days last week at work, I had to get back into the shape of that. So I was going into this blind today, or Saturday, I should say, to see it with my family. As I said, normally I've seen it ahead of time, didn't tell them. And so I knew what to expect and stuff like that. So reading the non-spoiler reviews, they're saying it's not as good as Ragnarok, but it has its moments. They say a lot of the jokes went a little too long and kept doing it over and over again, and they felt that there was something missing from it. Now, last week I mentioned that Taika Waititi said that there was a 4-hour cut out there. His original cut was for 4 hours, and once one of the websites I followed posted that, I wrote a comment saying what he should have done is he should divide it into two-hour films. So it'd be Thor Love and Thunder, Volume 1 Love, Volume 2 Thunder. Release one during the summer, one during the fall. That way you can have your full 4 hours, but then you keep your movie at 2 hours. That's what he really wanted to do. So he didn't do that, and will we see these deleted scenes probably in a Blu-ray, but we're probably not going to see an extended edition like they're doing with Spider-Man, which is coming out in September. So I've been hearing stuff. So I was going and then talking about how they cut Jeff Goldblum's character out and Peter Dinklage's character out and Lena Headey's character out. I was like, man, they just cut everything down. And then Natalie Portman comes in and says, man, he cut a bunch of stuff out. So I was like, oh man, okay. So I wasn't going in. I knew I'd enjoy it because I'm a Marvel fanatic and the MCU's do good. And I think Hemsworth is good as Thor, and Natalie Portman, I absolutely adore her. And I love Taika Waititi as well. So I was going in with that, and Tessa Thompson as well as Valkyrie. So I was very kind of happy with that. And then I went in and I came out and I was like, I really like that movie. What's what I've been writing it? It is a fast, funny, surprisingly emotional film. It is very fast. It is an hour and 59 minutes, which is one of the shortest Marvel movies. It's the shortest Marvel movie in years. I can't remember the last time how there were short ones like that, but that's what Taika wanted to do, and he didn't want to put a lot of extraneous stuff in it. And it still felt like maybe the scene with all the gods might have been could have trimmed slightly a little bit there, but it was still fine with that. But we'll get to that in a second. So it's wrapped around an interesting aspect where Korg, the big rock dude from Ragnarok, who's voiced by Taika Waititi, is telling a story to children about Thor. And the movie starts with the introduction of Gore, the God Killer. But before he became the God Killer, we see Christian Bale as Gore and his daughter on this desolate planet. And he keeps praying to his God to save him and his daughter, bring food and water, but it's not happening. And then his daughter dies in his arms. And so while he's curled up next to her grave and upset, he hears a voice and sees a oasis in the distance and goes to it and discovers his God is there and is like, oh, thank you, God, you can help me now. And the God's like, you're a fucking tool. I'm not going to help your ass. You're ridiculous. And the God had just killed a God killer with this. There's a sword that the God killer has, which can kill gods. And once Gore found out that his God wasn't going to help him, and the God grabbed him by the neck, was going to choke him to death. He grabs the sword and is able to kill this God, and he turns into Gore the God killer. That's the opening of the sequence. And then one thing you're going to get about this is Guns N' Roses is huge in this movie. If you love Guns N' Roses, you're going to love this movie because the soundtrack has not one, not two, not three, but 4 Guns N' Roses songs. Plus, one of the new characters, which we'll talk about in a second, calls himself Axl because he heard it from a band that he heard recently, Axl Rose, obviously. So then we get to Korg telling the story to these kids about Thor and giving sort of a backdrop of what's been happening with him, seeing the loss of his family and his place and all the stuff that's been happening and how he's contemplating things. Enya's one of my favorite new age music, and her song Only Time is in there during this montage, which is outstanding. And then the Guardians of the Galaxy, they says, but then, he's waiting for somebody to say, Thor, we need help. And then it cuts to Chris Pratt who's a Star-Lord, saying, Thor, we need your help. So Thor goes down with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and they're in the middle of a battle with 2 warring clans on this planet. And Thor does a speech and then goes and annihilates the army, the bad guy army, and destroys the temple of the good guys, but treats it as like he did a wonderful thing. And so, as a gift, they give Thor 2 space goats, who signature sound is ah. That's how it's like someone's screaming. And there's 2 of them, and they scream really, really loud. So he grabs them, puts them on the Guardian ship, and then they realize that they get a distress call. The Guardians get a distress call from a lot of different planets saying that their gods have been getting killed. And one of those planets has Lady Sif, played by Jamie Alexander, who hasn't been seen since the second movie, say she needs help. So Thor says, we need to go to her. But Chris Pratt's like, nah, we have other people we need to save. So they decide to separate, and the Guardians go to save other people, and Thor goes after Lady Sif along with Korg. They find Lady Sif, who's been, stabbed but hasn't been killed. And Thor is able to take her back to New Asgard. So we see a little bit what's going on in New Asgard, because Korg then narrates what's been going on in New Asgard. And we find out that Val's been King Val, and they're doing commercials, and has turned New Asgard into a tourist trap where cruise ships go and people get pictures. And the people who did the play from Ragnarok, Matt Damon, Liam Hemsworth, Sam Neill, are joined by Melissa McCarthy as they recount what happened in Ragnarok as a show for the tourists. And then, it's a whole touristy thing. And there in the center is the shards of Mjolnir. And then we learn about Jane Foster. Natalie Portman returns as Jane Foster. She missed Ragnarok. She's in this one, though. We find out, much like she has in the comics, that she has cancer, stage 4 cancer. So she's going to die. And she's at the point where she's not believing it and needs to keep working. Darcy makes an appearance and says, you got to stop doing this. You need to take care of yourself. But no, Jane ignores her. Then Darcy sort of drops but you have the Viking magic thing you can use if you need to. And Jane's like, I'm not going to do that. But it gets to the point where Jane says to herself, I need to do the Viking magic thing. And we don't know what that is just yet. So she ends up going to New Asgard, and she sees the shards of Mjolnir. And all of a sudden, Mjolnir starts to shake and vibrate, and it starts to reform, and then just flash of light happens. And then that's all we see about that. We go back to Thor, who goes and, what is he? I think the Jane Foster thing, he comes back to New Asgard with Lady Sif after Jane Foster's has returned as well. So I kind of mixed up the timeline. I kind of can't remember. Anyway, so he comes back to Lady Sif and takes her to the medical center there, and sees that Gore is coming to attack Asgard. So he goes there to defend it, and Gore shows up. He can control these shadow creatures, so he tears through the town, and Thor and Val and other people fight against him. And then we see Jane Foster Thor shows up, which is surprising. Thor himself, he doesn't know who this person is and what's going on. She has Mjolnir. Jane reveals herself to him, and they continue the fight. But what we end up learning is that Gore is not really there to destroy them just yet. He's there to kidnap the children of Asgard, New Asgard, because there are gods and people from Asgard still live there, and they're still having kids and still living their life. So these gods and people from Asgard are still having children. So Gore kidnaps all these children and takes them away. And so Thor and the mighty Thor, who's Jane now, and Val have to figure out what they're going to do to save the kids. And one of the kids is Hemdall's son, Astrid, who is the one that changed his name to Axel. And so using one of Hemdall's magic tricks, Thor is able to ghost walk to them to see where they are and try to comfort them and tell the kids that we're coming for you and stuff like that, and sees where they are. So he goes back and says, okay, I know where he is. We need to gather an army. So they attach the goats to one of their tourist ships and use Thor's Stormbreaker to power it to go to this place where I forget what it's called, but where all the gods and all religions hang out and do stuff. And he wants to try to get an army of gods to come save themselves from Gore, who's coming after them. So then there's a whole big bit about Zeus, who's played by Russell Crowe, and Thor trying to reason with him, but it's not quite working out. And then once Zeus refuses to let him go, they take out the gods, and Thor actually sends a thunderbolt through Zeus, basically kind of killing him, or so we think, but we'll get that in a second. And end up taking his thunderbolt as their weapon. So now it's just Val, Thor, and Mighty Thor, Odin's son, and Mighty Thor, Jane Foster, who are the only ones that and Korg, who are the only ones who are the army to go save the kids. But they have to, time's running out, and they have to do this. So they go to Gore's planet and fight him a little bit. Jane discovers that it's actually a trap. He needs Stormbreaker to enter the realm of eternity, which is comic accurate. Eternity is a character from the Marvel comics, and he is comic accurate in this movie. And basically, if he's able to make his way into this audience with eternity, he gets like one wish. And everyone knows that his wish is that all gods die. So they need to stop him before all the gods get killed and ruin religion and stuff like that. But he's using the kids to draw them out and to get Stormbreaker to him so he can open up the portal, and eventually has to force Thor to call Stormbreaker. He doesn't want to because he threatens to kill Jane and Valkyrie. Now, Jane has told Thor that she's dying of cancer, and Thor has told him that he loves her. We even get a really cool montage about how they broke up, connected to a ABBA song, which is really funny. So we see what happened with their relationship and how they broke up. But Thor's always felt this love for Jane, and she reciprocates it, so they are kind of back together. But Jane also knows that she's getting worse. She's not getting better. The becoming Thor was supposed to help her heal the cancer. It's actually making it worse. So she doesn't have much longer time because she keeps dipping into the Mjolnir well. But now she's at the point where she has to help save the kids. So in the battle, Valkyrie gets injured, and Jane breaks down and starts having a problem with her cancer. So Thor has to give up Stormbreaker and get them back to New Asgard to take care of them. So he gets them back to New Asgard and gets them to the hospital, and then he's like, tells Jane, I'm going to have to do this on my own. I have a plan, stuff like that. So he doesn't have Stormbreaker because Gore does. So he grabs Zeus's lightning bolt and ends up going back to where I missed how they knew he was going to Eternity's portal. So I guess Tess or Valkyrie told him how to get there, and he was able to do that somehow. I didn't see it because my son had to go to the bathroom in the middle of it. So I don't know how he got there. So he gets there and he finds the children. And while Gore is trying to cut a hole into Eternity's dimension, Thor gets the children around and is able to give the children some of his power, and they find weapons, stuff like that. And they go after the shadow creatures while Thor is going after Gore to try to stop him. So the Asgardian kids who have part of Thor's powers is starting to take out all these shadow creatures, and Thor's taking on Gore and stuff like that. It's not going as well. The kids are doing better than Thor is. And then eventually, Thor told her that if Jane takes up Mjolnir again, she's probably going to die. So she does, though, because she knows Thor's in trouble and she wants to save the kids. So she decides to sacrifice herself. So she puts on the mantle of Thor again, the mighty Thor, and goes and helps Thor beat Gore. But the way to beat him is to destroy the dark saber thing that kills gods, and they're able to do it, but the hole to eternity has been cut, and Gore, Thor, and Jane go into the Gore goes in first, and then Jane and Thor follow after they make sure the kids using Stormbreaker make their way back to New Asgard. So then they go in. And Jane is, she's dying now. She's part of how she destroyed the sword was using all Mjolnir's power that sucked all her, basically her life left and destroyed the sword. So now she's not just Jane Foster now, and she's really going to die here soon. So they get there, and Gore's already in front of eternity, getting ready to make his wish. And so Thor decides that, tries to talk him out of it. But he tells him that the whole thing is about love and not revenge and stuff like that, and that you miss your daughter and stuff like that. But at this point, he said, look, you've won. You can make your wish, and we're all going to die before you make your wish. I'm not going to try to fight you because I'd rather spend time with the person I love. So he goes over to Jane and comforts her and stuff like that. And that sort of, and then I think Thor drops in there. It's like, you can bring her back, that sort of thing. And so that eventually gets to Gore, and he asks Eternity, because once Gore lost the sword, he started reverting back to his old self, but he's dying because the power of the sword has corrupted him. So now that's gone, he's dying as well. So he asks for Eternity to bring back his daughter, and she in Eternity does, and she comes and sees her dad die, and then Thor is able to comfort Jane, and then she dies, turns into gold stardust, and disappears. And then Gore says, I can't take care of her because I'm going to die here, but can you watch over her, make sure she's okay? And Thor promises that he will watch her daughter, and that makes Gore happy, and he dies. So his daughter's sad, but she ends up going with Thor. So then we get back to Gore, who starts telling the story about what happened after. They put a statue to Jane Foster in New Asgard, and Thor has adopted Gore's daughter and is known as Uncle Thor. And the two of them are flying around helping other planets, fight their wars and stuff like that. Thor has Mjolnir again, and Gore's daughter has the Stormbreaker. So that's basically where we are with that. Now, there's a whole lot of other stuff that happens in there, but I covered the majority of stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that does happen that I didn't bring up that you just have to see for yourself. It's very good, very clever. So then we have the mid-credit sequence, spoilers here, which shows that Zeus didn't die, and he's being healed. He's talking to someone off screen about, how no one believes in them anymore. So on and so forth. But it's because of what happened here, it's time for us to bring hell on to Thor, and says, can you do this for me, my son? And it cuts to Hercules, which for Marvel fans, Hercules is a main character in the Marvel comics. He's an Avenger. He's had his own series. He's had his own miniseries. So he's a hugely popular character in the Marvel Universe. In fact, there's a cover, I want to say, that Simonson did during his run, which has Hercules pushing Thor off of the cover while he's talking to a sexy woman, which is like, this is my comic now, or something like that. So they do have this rivalry, but they've also worked together as teammates, and it's like they're brothers who hate each other, sort of thing, is what they are in the comics. So the only thing I didn't like about this Hercules was it's not a famous actor. So it's not some celebrity. It's just some guy I'd never heard of before. It doesn't have the trademark beard. So that's the only thing I was a little bit upset about. I wish he would have had Hercules' trademark beard, but he doesn't. But he's got the face thing that is hugely famous. So Hercules is now officially a part of the MCU. And I can't wait to see where he shows up next. Should be really cool. And then we get to the end credit sequence, which is important as well. Whereas with the Doctor Strange one, the mid credit sequence introduced Clea and the Dark Dimension, and then the end credit scene was just a joke that plays off of Bruce Campbell and stuff like that. And that was funny, but it really didn't have any way to move on the story. Thor's does, because the last scene, the end credit sequence has Jane Foster arriving at Valhalla and is met by Idris Elba's Heimdall, who says, welcome to Valhalla. You're welcome here. Thank you for keeping an eye out on my son and on Thor and all that stuff. And Jane says, oh, okay, that's good. And then that's where it ends. And for the fans who know the comics, a sort of similar thing happened. Jane had cancer. She became Thor. The sort of similar thing was sort of happening. And then she ended up dying as well. And she goes to Valhalla and becomes a Valkyrie. And then she has her own series called Valkyrie. So Jane Foster Valkyrie. So that could be setting up a Valkyrie rebirth sort of thing, because remember, Tessa Thompson Valkyrie lost all of her Valkyrie sisters. But if you bring in Jane Foster and make her a Valkyrie, that could be very interesting, and bring her back when they need to, because that's what Valkyries do. They help carry the dead back. So we might see her again as well. So that was kind of good. And then after that, it says Thor will return, which is kind of interesting also, because Hemsworth has said that he was not, he still hasn't thought much about doing any more Thor stuff, or we'll see what happens. So I don't know what that's going to be. But now with the introduction of Hercules and Zeus saying we've got to take out Thor, that leads me to believe that I think Taiki has an idea for another movie, but he's not going to, and he said it so much in interviews. He said, I'm not going to do it right away. He's got the Star Wars movie he's going to be doing here in a little bit, which I got a funny story also, is that while working on Thor Love and Thunder, he went up to Natalie Portman and enjoyed working with her. It's like, hey, you know what? I could really use you in my Star Wars movie. And Natalie looked at him and was like, I've been in Star Wars movies. And it took Taiki a little bit, but they realized, oh, yes, you were Padme in the original trilogy. So he had forgotten that she was in the original trilogy, or the prequels, I should say. So no Natalie Portman in Taiki's Star Wars, because he wants to separate himself from the whole Skywalker Star Wars sort of thing, but make it set in the Star Wars universe, but not be connected to the bigger Star Wars picture. So we'll see what happens with that. But I think Taiki, since he put that in there, I think Taiki has an idea for another Thor movie, which is going to include Hercules. So I would assume, if that's the case, let's give it a 3-year window to give Hemsworth a little bit of time, maybe 2 to 3 year window, because if Taiki wants to do Star Wars, that could take some time. A 2 to 3 year window. So we're looking at maybe a 2025, 2026, maybe we might see Thor 5, which would be really interesting, because Thor is the only solo character to have 4 movies. Ant-Man is going to have his 3rd one coming up next year. Iron Man had 3. Captain America had 3. The Avengers had 4, but that's the Avengers. That's the team, not just individual people. Doctor Strange just had 2. Captain Marvel's going to have 2. Black Panther's going to have 2. What else is there? Any other? Guardians of the Galaxy is going to have 3. So we'll see about that. So I really recommend it. As I said, a fun, fast, surprisingly emotional film. I didn't think the jokes went on too long. I thought they were really funny. Not a lot of people were laughing in the theater. So I don't know if it was just, they just weren't. I liked it a lot. And I really want to see it again. So we'll see. But I think it was, I would have obviously liked to have a few more scenes and more stuff, because it's Taiki and Thor and stuff like that. And maybe, but I can honestly see maybe why Jeff Goldblum was cut and why Pete Dinklage was cut. Lena Headey is supposed to play Hera, which makes it interesting, because that'd be funny to see her interacting with Russell Crowe's Zeus, who is actually, by the way, is absolutely funny as hell. So that's interesting to see that as well. And you get to see the players who did put on the play, as I said, are Sam Neill, Matt Damon, and Liam Hemsworth. So it's funny to see them. And then you saw Idris Elba's Heimdall was in it as well. No Loki though, so if anyone says, "Oh, Loki's in this," no, he's not. The only thing you might get to Loki is when Hemsworth gets stripped by Zeus, and you do see the Hemsworth ass, and that is really Hemsworth's ass. So, ladies, that's an incentive for you to go to see Hemsworth's ass. He's got tattoos on his back, and one is hugely for Loki, so it's for in remembrance of Loki. So, yeah, so there's that. So, absolutely worth it. Absolutely should check it out, and highly recommend it. Miss Marvel, I didn't do reviews of episode 4, and episode 5 came out, so we're caught up. There's only one more, I think, episode of this. Episode 4 basically took place, I'm trying to remember, that was the wedding, I think. Yes, the wedding of her brother, Miss Marvel's brother, and the clandestine escape their prison and come after her at the wedding. And while they're fighting at the wedding, the bad clandestine member hits the bauble with a sword, and it sends Kamala into the past, to the partition. And that's where episode 4 ended. Then episode 5, which is the one that just came out this week, has a history of Kamala's great grandmother, who she was, who's the one that has gave her the bauble, and trying to figure out all about. No, it's her grandmother, right? Grandmother. No, it's her great grandmother. Yes, to figure out about all that's about. So we get a history about how the great grandmother, who was a member of the clandestine, how she met her husband, and how they had Kamala's grandmother, and then the story about Kamala's grandmother getting lost during the partition, and a trail of stars led her to her father, and eventually we find out that Kamala was the reason for getting her back to her father, her great grandfather. And once she gets back there, the hole that she was sucked into, that time thing, is the entrance back to the clandestine's dimension. So one of the clandestine members goes to it, and he immediately turns to stone and then explodes. So he's gone. And so it's like, you can't go back, sort of thing, but it needs to get closed, or this entire dimension is going to destroy our dimension. We're all going to be dead. So then the leader of the clandestine decides to sacrifice herself. So she goes in and is able to close the tear in the. No, it wasn't. No, the fourth one was when they went to Pakistan. I'm sorry. They go to Pakistan, so we find out more about the Kamala's mother and her relationship to her mother, Kamala's grandmother. And Kamala runs into a group of people who help train her up on her stuff. And then she goes to the train station where there's the fight where it happens, where the whole time travel thing goes on. That's what it was. I'm sorry. It's been a while since I've seen the fourth one. And so the lead clandestine lady sacrificed herself to close the portal, and she does. And Kamala's mom and grandmother discover her power and see that she has these powers and is the light girl hero that they've heard about in New York. And her mother and grandmother have sort of mended their fences, so her grandmother might be coming with them back to America. And so we learn a little bit. So then we cut to the clandestine leader's son, Cameron, who has been left behind because all the other clandestine people, I think, were killed during this thing. So he was left behind. And Bruno ends up helping him out. And we learned that Cameron has the powers that his mother, when his mother passed, she transferred his powers to him. And Damage Control finds him, and he freaks out and blows up Bruno's place where he works. And that's where the episode ended. So we'll see what happened. But I'm still enjoying the show. It's definitely different than other Marvel shows, and that's a good thing. So that's pretty cool. A lot of death this week. A lot of big ones. So 2022 is coming back, roaring back with a vengeance. First up, James Caan, who was Sonny Corleone in The Godfather, was the main character in Misery, was the father in Elf, was in Brian's Song, Honeymoon in Vegas, Mickey Blue Eyes, was a voice in A Cloudy with a Chance of Meatball, excuse me. Big actor, stuff like that. He's passed away at the age of 82. This week, Tony Sirico, a former mob man who got busted, and when he was in prison, he saw a group of prison inmates perform drama and plays and stuff like that, and he found a calling that he really wanted to get involved with, so he joins the group and becomes an actor. And once he gets out, he starts looking for jobs, and of course, being sort of a mafia type of guy, he gets cast in a lot of mob movies and stuff like that. I think he was in Goodfellas and a few other things as well, but he was mostly known as Paulie Walnuts on The Sopranos. He died at the age of 79. Larry Storch, a 99-year-old actor whose most claim to fame was the TV show F Troop from the 1960s. He passed away. I think, if I kind of remember, for those who may or may not know, I've mentioned this before on my show, but the guys who created the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon game, I knew them. They went to my college. They actually, the year they came up with it, they were living directly underneath my dorm room where they came up with the idea. And when they went on to John's, not John, I forget, John, whatever, the guy who did the Daily Show for the longest time, Jon Stewart. They went on his show before he was on the Daily Show, and they had Kevin Bacon come out and talk to these guys, and they said, "Hey, give us, a name, and we'll connect them to you." And Kevin Bacon said Larry Storch. So that was that. So that was interesting. So he died at the age of 99. Lenny Von Dolan, who was in Twin Peaks, and he's played a couple other roles as well. He passed away this week as well. The ex-president of Japan was assassinated by a homemade gun. The name of the man is Shinzo Abe. And guns are really, there's a lot of gun control and breakdown. He was killed by a handmade gun. So that was how, he passed away. So that's kind of disturbing. Kazuki Takahashi, who was the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh! He died at the age of 60 this week. A college football linebacker by name of Owasom Harris died in his dorm room. He was only 20. He was from Alabama State. No one knows the cause of death yet. Another college football wide receiver died in a tragic cliff diving incident. Emporia State's wide receiver Brexton Green. He was 20 years old as well. He died this week too. Pat McCullum, who was the co-creator of the fanzine Wizard, which was huge in the 90s, and also was at one time DC Comics' executive editor. He passed away this week as well. And Hank Goldberg, an ESPN handicapping expert, died at the age of 82 this week as well. And cornerback of the San Francisco 49ers in the early part of the 21st century, Jimmy Williams, died at the age of 43 this week as well. So a lot of death here. It's hard, but it's fact of life. It happens, unfortunately. On a brighter note in Japan, Japanese Pokemon Center Online is giving everyone another chance to obtain a life-size Lucario plush. Now, Lucario is one of the more popular Pokemon, and Pokemon are huge in Japan, and this is a life-size one. The picture of it has them Lucario sitting at a desk, much like I am here. Basically looks about the same size as me, so that's pretty wild. Also, one of my favorite Pokemon, Psyduck, has been getting some unofficial action figure creations where they put Psyduck in the outfits of Sailor Moon. And I think that's hilarious. So, because I like Psyduck a lot, but these are Psyduck dressed up like the Sailor Moon girls. So I think that's just kind of funny. So I thought it was kind of funny. An old Australian dude smacks a crocodile on the head with a frying pan this week. Crazy Australian dude is what I should say. But crocodile was messing with his stuff, and he beat the crap out of it with his with that. Former NFL quarterback Jake Plummer, mostly known as Jake the Snake, played for the Arizona Cardinals for a long time. I think he went to the Super Bowl that they were in against the Steelers. He is now a mushroom farmer in Colorado. So, you can find work after being an NFL quarterback, apparently. So good for him. Baker Mayfield, who was the Cleveland Browns quarterback, was their number one draft pick at one time and has done a pretty good job of bringing the Browns back to respectability, but has been losing favor with the Browns for a while and was brushed aside for the sexual predator Deshaun Watson, who they gave him a huge $230 million contract, all guaranteed, by the way. And so Baker's just sort of, been drifting in the wind. No other team really wants him that much. So he was just sort of there. And Deshaun Watson is now probably going to get suspended for the entire NFL season, as he should. So the Browns, probably if they were nicer, they probably could have a year out of Baker, but they didn't. And eventually, this week, Baker finally got the trade he's been looking for. He's been traded to the Carolina Panthers, who already have Sam Darnold, another previous first-round pick, who was traded to them from the Jets last year. And they're basically the same person for the most part. So we'll see who ends up being the quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. Now, the funny thing about that is I think Baker Mayfield is going to destroy Sam Darnold because Baker Mayfield is actually a pretty good quarterback. I don't know exactly what happened in Cleveland, but I think Baker sort of got screwed out of a lot of things. He was injured most of last year, so that's why he wasn't playing up to snuff. But he hadn't been playing really. He had one really good year and really hadn't been playing up to snuff for the rest of the time, but he wasn't bad, Anyway, I really think that Baker is going to be the Carolina Panthers starting quarterback, and Darnold's going to be his backup. And, oh my God, excuse me. And so what's interesting about that is if that is indeed what happens and Baker becomes Carolina's starting quarterback, week 1, which is the weekend of September 11th, the Browns are playing the Carolina Panthers. And basically, in order to get him to the Carolina Panthers, the Browns are going to eat a bunch of Mayfield's contract. So basically, the Browns are going to be paying Baker Mayfield close to $500,000 to try to beat them in week 1 if he is indeed becomes a starting quarterback. So we'll see. I think Baker really got kind of screwed out of the deal. Everybody thinks that he is trash, and maybe they're right, but I think he was unjustly downgraded. So we'll see what happens. This should be an interesting training camp. But this is another story line now that you have to look at where it comes to quarterbacks. There's all kinds of quarterback stories going on now. So should be a very interesting football season, which, by the way, the Ravens training camp starts around July 19th. So that's a good deal. That's actually our primary also for governor. So I'm good on that. So that was kind of interesting. Kirsten Dunst and actor Jesse Plemons are married. Good for them. Hopefully they had a happy couple. Everything's good. Hershey Park, which is a really great amusement park about an hour and a half from here, is going to be retiring the Wildcat, their 85-foot tall wooden coaster that's been there forever, as of July 31st, which is a shame because, these newfangled roller coasters are all about the twists and turns and the stuff like that. This is an old school roller coaster that I guess is costing too much to keep the upkeep on. So they are shutting it down. I don't know if they're going to tear it down and put a new futuristic one in there or what they're going to do, but all I know is that it is being shut down as of July 31st. So that's a shame. What else we got here? I already talked about that. Boom, boom. The Jewel Cooler. This is not a fake commercial. This is a weird ass commercial that was posted on YouTube, or rather on Facebook, I should say. Basically, it is a device that a man can attach to his air conditioner in his car. There's a little pipe thing that he goes and he sticks it up his shorts so that when he turns on the air conditioning goes from, instead of coming out into the car, goes into the Jewel Cooler, into the tube, and cools off his balls. Yes. An hour into the episode, I'm talking about the Jewel Cooler. It is an actual product, and now they need to make one for women for their boob sweat. That would be quite weird to see, have attached and then have the thing popped in like that and in between the cleavage. But yeah, it's a real thing. So speaking of women, Las Vegas Raiders have hired Sandra Douglas as the team's next president. So she's the first African-American female to run a NFL football team. So congratulations to her. Another woman was filmed getting angry over a burrito, attacks a street vendor in South Los Angeles. Stupid ass bitches. So let's talk about animals. Got a lot of animals on this page, so let's blow through these. Penguins are refusing to eat the cheap fish that an aquarium bought to save money. So they are refusing to eat this cheap fish. I don't know how they know it's cheap fish, but apparently they do. An Abilene Zoo has welcomed 5 baby capybaras. So good on that. The Chester Zoo, excuse me, good God. Sorry for the gas. The Chester Zoo welcomes 9 adorable penguin chicks. 3 endangered Sumatran tiger cubs have been born in a London zoo. So there are now 3 more Sumatran tigers than there were. And oh yeah, there's also 2 more were born. Let's see, do I have this on another page here? 2 more. Yeah, I know there's I'll find it here, but 2 more Sumatran tigers were also born at a different zoo. So now there have been 5 Sumatran tiger cubs born this week alone, which is 5 more than they had, which is helping them come back from their endangered species. So I know zoos can be conceived as bad spots, and they probably are for caging them up, but the fact is they're also helping bring back the species in a controlled sort of area, and hopefully can repopulate them, and maybe, just maybe, eventually be able to reintroduce them to certain areas that they need that. A zoo had to Zoo had to separate 5 parrots after the birds were encouraging each other to swear at guests. Again, not a fake story. It is a real story. So that's a kind of weird, bizarre sort of thing. A bizarre translucent jellyfish looking thing was pulled from the icy depths in Alaska. So a new sort of fish species has been discovered in Alaska. A lucky dog received sticks as tributes to his grave. 100 years later, a dog was buried in a cemetery. And recently, people have been leaving sticks on his gravesite. I guess they discovered the gravesite for the dog. He has his own tombstone with a picture of him and stuff like that carved into it. So that's kind of interesting. A farmer uncovered one of the biggest things ever in his life as he uncovered a 11,000-year-old mammoth, almost full-size mammoth, on his property. Seeing more and more of them due to the permafrost getting melted up here because of global warming. So that's kind of interesting. Speaking of being uncovered, an Iron Age chariot burial site has been found, complete with a horse and rider. So basically, they found a chariot, an iron chariot, on its side that still had a person in it, and a skeleton, obviously now, and the skeleton of the horse that was dragging it, all in this one spot. So that's crazy. The James Webb Space Telescope will be peering at Jupiter and its moons. I guess it's cheaper than sending another probe there. I would have wished maybe they would do a deeper dive into like a Neptune or a Pluto, but I guess maybe Jupiter is close enough they get some really good stuff from it. But James Webb's telescope is supposed to be brilliant, so it would have been better maybe to focus it on Pluto or Neptune or even Uranus for that matter. Excuse me. Johnny Depp's next film will not be financed by Netflix, though a lot of people were saying this week that his next film will be financed by Netflix. Instead, it will be shown on Netflix in France as of now, because the next movie is about King Louis XV, which I think was a French president. So Netflix, as of now, has no plans of showing it here in the States, only in France. Obviously, that could change with the weather. So speaking of that, Amber Heard has saying that they should do another court case because there was a problem with one of the jurors. It just sounds like a bad loser trying to, recoup herself, but I'm not for that. Paul Rudd has been FaceTiming and texting a lonely boy whose classmates did not sign his yearbook. Now, this is an interesting story. It started off where it's a story that went viral where his classmates and his fellow grade did not sign his yearbook. So once the story went viral, because the mom posted the video, I guess, to try to get sympathy and stuff like that for him, which is nice and all that, but it also seems like they tried to do a lot to try to get the attention, and they got it. So upperclassmen found out about it in his school, and they started letting him hang out with them, and they signed his yearbook. And then Paul Rudd found out about it and started FaceTiming and texting him, and also sent him a true Ant-Man helmet, which he signed. So, but the kid wasn't, greedy about it. He was very happy, relieved, and crying and stuff like that this has happened. So it's just these types of stories, I get it, but sometimes it just feels off or whatever. I mean, I was bullied as a kid, but I never would have thought to post, well, they didn't have the internet back then, but to tell people a story about me getting bullied and that I need more friends, stuff like that. My parents would even consider that either. And what you would find out then is people would want to beat you up more because they call you a whiny little bitch baby. So whatever. Captain America 4 with Anthony Mackie has finally found its director in Julius Ona, who directed the Cloverfield Paradox. He is African-American, so that'll be good to have an African-American directing an African-American movie. And it's Captain America 4, so that'll be interesting to see. Again, that one probably will not be coming out probably till 2025, maybe 2024, since they got the director now, maybe they can fast track it, so we'll see what happens. But as of now, they got a director, so we'll see what happens with that. So that's good on that. I've been doing this the last couple of weeks on the show, and I'm going to do it again here. The anniversaries, a bunch of them as well. The Pirates of the Caribbean, speaking of Johnny Depp, came out 19 years ago this week. That was 2003. Now, interesting story about this real quick. 2003 is the year that I got married, and we had our honeymoon in San Francisco. And Finding Nemo also came out in 2003, but that came out, or maybe it came out in 2000. Anyway, regardless, we didn't see Pirates of the Caribbean when it came out in theaters in July because we were busy with wedding prep and stuff like that because we were getting married in October. And we just didn't get around to it or whatever, so we didn't go see it. So when we got to our hotel room, one of the lazy, nights we would have before we went to bed, the TV, in the hotel was connected to like pay-per-view movies, stuff like that. Pirates of the Caribbean was one of them you could do. So my wife and I's first experience with Pirates of the Caribbean was we watched it on our honeymoon before we went to bed. So that was 19 years ago. This week, of course, we didn't see it till October, but that's besides the point. American Pie, the sex comedy, came out 23 years ago in 1999. Now, an interesting story about this one was I didn't see this one. Did I see it in the movie theater? I can't remember if I saw it in the movie theater or not. I think I wanted to, but I don't know if I did. I think I did. I think I saw it in the movie theater. And they announced that the DVD was going to come out like December 30th of 1999. So it was like the day before, we were going to switch over to the 20th century. So I remember going to the video store. I forget the name of it. It was in Towson Center, and I bought a copy. No, it wasn't Towson Center. It was downstairs. It was they either didn't have a copy of it, or this record store was the only place that had. So I bought it there. I forget what that one was called, but I bought it that on that day. And the other thing about American Pie also was, I can't remember if it was the same year or whatever, but I remember going into the video store they had at Towson Town Center, and while I was in there, I was talking to the guy, because I was in there like every Tuesday to buy new films, and he knew who I was. And while we were talking, he got a phone call, and it was a bunch of kids asking about, do you have the movie where the guy fucks a pie? And laughed, and then hung up. And he's like, I get these calls all the fucking time. So I found that kind of amazing. But American Pie, 23 years old this week. This is not movie related, but the Weekly World News is one of those great old-fashioned newspapers, which had all kinds of crazy ass stuff, fake Photoshop things, and just awful, terrible stories, but just hilarious at the same time. One of my favorites I remember is when we first landed, Huygens landed a probe on Titan, and they sent back pictures. Weekly World News photoshopped Titan cats, which were cats on the surface of Pluto with all this weird like alien stuff photoshopped on them. It was kind of funny. So it's a fake news sort of thing, but it's funny. It's like abnormally fake ones. Like the stuff they're doing now is like there's a talking chimp that's running for president or some bullshit like that. I don't know. But one of their creations is now 30 years old, Bat Boy, which is one of their creations, a boy that looks like a bat. And they've done multiple stories about Bat Boy. He's become sort of their unofficial mascot. So much so that T-shirts, I think there's a pop about him out there, Funko Pop about him, and other stuff as well. But Bat Boy was interesting. He started 30 years ago. His first story showed up 30 years ago, and is basically, as I said, like the Weekly World News' mascot. 17 years ago, the original Fantastic Four movie came out. Jessica Alba, Ian Grufford, Chris Evans, and Michael Chiklis, which is actually wasn't a bad movie at all. And I forget the guy who played Dr. Doom. He was the guy who was on Nip Cut, and then on Charmed. I forget his name. Anyway, but I didn't think it was a bad movie. I mean, Chris Evans was outstanding as Johnny Storm, and Michael Chiklis was great as the Thing. He had the attitude and stuff like that. And then Jessica Alba was Jessica Alba. She was sexy and all that, and you could see her falling for Ian Grufford's sort of gray hair sort of things. I thought it wasn't a bad movie. I quite enjoyed it actually, and my wife liked it too. So that came out 17 years ago this week as well. And actually, I think that finishes this page, doesn't it? Yep. We need some more anniversary stuff to go over, so we're going to do that too. Don't have one on this page. Interesting. The first Mars rover, Sojourner, landed on July 4th, 1997. I remember that because I was at my uncle's house, and they had it on, I guess, like CNN or something to show the first photos of Sojourner's trip to Mars. And it was on there around the same time as Pathfinder. Pathfinder showed up a year or so later, or later that year or something like that. But yeah, so it was the first rover that ever landed on Mars, landed July 4th, 1997. So that's interesting. Forrest Gump was released 28 years ago this week. When I saw it being talked about before I left college in the spring of '94, I was telling people left and right, this movie's going to be a huge hit. It's got Tom Hanks. It's got this sort of cool sort of history sort of story. It's going to be huge and might even be a good Oscar bait thing. And I was correct on all that stuff. And I'm not just saying that to pat myself on the back, but it was exactly what I said. and I called it. And I feel proud of myself that I was able to call it. So something else that's not movie related. July 5th, 1977, the best picture of the Lake Champlain monster Champ was taken and is still one of the most definitive pictures that is really hard to dismiss. It was taken in 77, so there really wasn't any Photoshop sort of thing. It was a clear picture, wasn't like sort of all messed up and foggy, didn't look fake. It was in color, and it had the distinct long neck and hump that you expect of a lake creature like that. Is still considered to be one of the best pieces of supernatural evidence. And this week was the anniversary of it being taken. Actually, think about that. 77 would be a 5 year. So it'd be 45 years ago. So yeah, 45th anniversary of that. That's pretty cool. Weekend at Bernie's, an outstanding film, came out years ago. I think I covered most of these, but I will do it again. 10 years ago this week, Amazing Spider-Man showed up, which was the Andrew Garfield one. 31 years ago this week, Terminator 2 showed up, debuted. 26 years ago this week, Independence Day showed up. I think I covered those last week. 15 years ago, Transformers, Michael Bay Transformers showed up. Die Hard 2 showed up 32 years ago. I remember seeing that in the movie theater at York Ridge, which was a 4-movie theater when it came out, and I really liked that one as well. And 3 years ago, Stranger Things Season 3 came out because it was set on July 4th. Considering Part 2 of Season 4 came out July 1st, it's sort of a good little similar thing. And a more personal note, 19 years ago on July 3rd, we moved into this glorious house. I think I brought this up last week as well. And 20 years ago on July 4th, I proposed to my wife at the 4th of July parade. I'm never going to forget that. She had played softball the night before, so she had stayed out drinking. So she was kind of hungover when she came home. And I wanted to propose to her at the parade because we were supposed to meet my mom and stepdad at the parade. So I got up in the morning, grabbed the ring before she could, see where I would hit it, and then told her, you ready to get up? And she was all, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go, and you can, come if you want to. But if you don't, I'll come back, and then we'll go to my grandma's house, or my Uncle Philip's house. So I left, and I was like, okay, she's probably not going to show up. So change of plans, I'll propose at the family dinner. Like, okay. So I figured that would work out. So she shows up for the parade. She felt guilty. She told me later on about not being there. So we were there and watching the parade. And so once a band playing Irish music went by, I went down on my knees, proposed to her, and she turned around and said, I hate you. And then she said yes. And then I gave her the ring, and then we kissed. And then the guy next to us, I didn't know, was like, I bet you're going to go to every parade he asks you to from now on, that sort of thing. So then we went to my Uncle Philip's house. We were going to tell, I was wanting to tell everybody one big thing, get everybody together and say, hey, guess what? We're engaged. But someone saw the ring, told my grandmother, and the whole thing got destroyed. And that's how that worked. So that is it for the anniversaries. Whew, I got a long way to go here. So what's up we got? We got 118. Okay, we're looking probably at a 2-hour window. So let's blow through some of these as well. We'll talk about that again. A kangaroo was spotted on top of a roof, and when people called the police thought it was a joke. Eventually, they came and they were able to help get it down. There's Oklahoma City Zoo was the one that had the other two Sumatran tigers born as well. An ancient fossil rated 99 million years ago was a 99 million years ago arachnid was discovered having an erection. So, yeah, okay. Whatever. All right. Interesting. A body was found in the lake out in front of Los Angeles' SoFi Stadium where the Rams and the Chargers play. The investigation is ongoing, so we'll find out more about that. So that's kind of a creepy sort of thing. Woman dips eggs in flour and cooks them in oil to make chickenless fried chicken. I mean, technically they're baby chickens, more baby chicken eggs or whatever. But yeah, so that's something interesting, different. A cow has given birth to 4 calves, which they named Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo. But what's even more interesting about that is a 1 in 180 million chance that a cow will give birth to 4 calves. But this one did, and they named them Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo. Once a year for a rare moment at 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on July 8th. This is every year, no matter when July 8th is or whatever. At 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 99% of the world population will be in the sun due to the summer and stuff like that. Now, the only one that really isn't is Australia and New Zealand and islands around there. And out west, the Californias and the West Coast sort of stuff like that. There's like a thin band before you get to the brighter aspect of it. Is in a twilight sort of, or rather, I should say, a early morning sort of thing. The sun is rising, but the sun is still kind of out a little bit. So that's kind of an interesting thing I didn't know that happened. But that happened on July 8th, which was on Friday. So that's pretty cool. So 99% of the world population was in the sun. So that's kind of interesting. An explosion rocked the Georgia Guidestones, which has been called the American Stonehenge. I didn't even know there was such a thing, but it is a weird rock formation that looks like Stonehenge. That was put in the middle of Georgia. Supposedly, people believe it is a satanic sort of thing, blah, 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 whatever. But video shows a car coming up to it at night, dropping something off, and then driving away just before it explodes, and then explodes, and it's been destroyed. So excuse me on that again. Whale swallows 2 people in a kayak and then spits them back out. That's kind of an interesting story. Didn't know about that, but there it is. Irish dancers have created a new dance that is a new take on Vivaldi's 4 Seasons. So that's kind of good. The Irish dancing and classical music go well, pretty good together. A 25-year-old classical violinist plans to quit Paris after being mugged twice within minutes. So she's like, I'm done. I've been mugged twice, and I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. A velvet ant, a new type of ant, has been discovered that has a sting that can actually kill a cow, and is called a velvet ant because it looks like it's got this little furry sort of stuff on top of it. It looks like velvet, so it's kind of interesting. NASA is sending rockets to the Alpha Centauri, which is one of the closest stars to us, to see if it would be habitable for life or whatever. I just don't know how they're going to get there quickly. But I mean, they're sending it out there, so that's pretty cool. So good on that. Rimsky-Korsakov's estate has been devastated by a fire, which has damaged over 1,000 valuable artifacts. That's a shame when stuff like that happens. The Alcon Highway, which is the Alaskan-Canadian highway, has collapsed due to flooding. I think it turned it sort of like a sinkhole sort of thing. So there are other roads to go through Canada to Alaska. This one was the main one everybody liked to use, but they cannot use it now until they're able to somehow rebuild it, if they are planning on rebuilding it. So that's kind of a downer like that. The Lego's latest Super Mario set is a 2,807-piece Bowser, which is a lot. It's one of their biggest pieces, one of their biggest amounts of Legos out there. Cold Stone Creamery is offering 3 Nintendo-inspired flavors, including Mario Party, Animal Crossing, and Kirby. I've heard some of the descriptions of them. They sound pretty good, so we'll see how they goes, but they are offering them. Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio will be appearing in Marvel's Echo movie, or Echo TV show. They are connected to Echo in the comics, so it makes sense for them to show up in the TV show as well. And plus, we know that, from Hawkeye, that Echo and Kingpin are connected. So, of course, Vincent D'Onofrio will be there too. Sandman will include Gordy the Gargoyle, which is hopefully going to turn into one of the cute creatures that everybody likes to see. So that'll be coming up. Stephen Yeun and Robert Pattinson are going to be starring in Bong Joon-ho's new science fiction film, something 7, Mikey 7, Mercury 7, something like that. So good on that. Bryce Dallas Howard's butt was getting all kinds of debates online this week as pictures show her big butt, and people were discussing it. I guess people have more interesting to talk about, though it is a nice size butt. In a very it should have been typical because it's Texas, but the Dallas Cowboys, who are a shit franchise anyway, were trying to get people to buy tickets for their football team. And they said, if you buy tickets, you can get some free Black Rifle coffee. That is a new type of coffee that comes down there, which offers stuff like silencer, something or other, and just the names of the coffees are all about guns and shit like that. And this ad showed up about a week after the killings at the Uvalde Elementary School. And it just shows a very bad thing on the Dallas Cowboys and whatever. And people are, as my daughter said, ratioing them. So that's kind of interesting that people are not standing for this bullshit, and hopefully Dallas gets knocked down a peg. And to offer free coffee from that have names about killing and guns and shit like that is just, and after a massive shooting in your state that killed lots of children, is kind of dumb. So the Stranger Things creators, the Duffer Brothers, are the hottest people out there now. Stranger Things season 4 has crossed the 1 billion stream benchmark that not many streaming shows have ever reached, but it has. So Netflix wants to keep them in-house, obviously. So Netflix has helped them create a production company called Upside Down Pictures, and they will be producing a number of shows and movies and stuff like that for Netflix. The ones that some of them been announced already, and some are all going to be under this banner, but the one that's been announced already was the adaptation of Stephen King and Peter Straub's novel, The Talisman, which I didn't think was that massive. And I heard about it. I was like, oh, this would be kind of cool if the Duffer Brothers are going to make a TV show about it. So I should probably get up on it. So I ordered it from Amazon. It's about as thick. It's about 800 pages. So I was just like, God damn, Stephen King. I didn't think it was going to be that big. I thought it was a lot smaller than that. There's a sequel called Bleak House. I'm sorry, not Bleak House, Black House. Which has the same character. So there's a Talisman adaptation coming up. A Stranger Things stage play, which isn't really part of this deal, but I just thought I'd mention it as part of this thing, is being done as well. A Stranger Things spinoff, which has been talked about for a while, is also coming through the Upside Down Pictures. So we'll learn more about that when we do. The Duffers are working on Stranger Things season 5 now. It's scheduled to hit in 2024. So they're working on the scripts now for that, or they will be working on the scripts within the next few weeks. But it will be started this summer, and the new season will be in 2024. And finally, the one that surprised everybody was that the Duffer Brothers will be working on a live action Death Note series. Netflix tried to do a Death Note movie, live action movie. Fans of Death Note absolutely tore it apart because it was a piece of shit. But now the Duffer Brothers are doing a TV show, and people are a little bit more hopeful about that. So we'll see what happens. There are also a couple other production things that weren't announced, but they're saying we're going to be working with these creators, and they're going to give us their pitches, and we'll produce them. And so when those pitches come through and they're ready to start filming them or talking about them, they will release what they are and everybody like that. So good on them. They deserve it. It's good. So this week in the apocalypse, figures a rig time, about an hour and a half in. Since I've started this show in like around 2013, there have been a huge number of people saying The end of the world is going to happen. Now, we thought it was going to happen in 2012, and then we thought it was going to happen with the rapture before then and all that stuff. And then after that, when I started doing this show, there was more and more things. This is going to happen on this date. Something's going to happen on this date. Something's going to happen on this date. And so far, nope. Now, one thing before I get to this that I didn't write about, but I think I'm going to now, is that Siri, supposedly, someone asked them, what's going to happen in Miami in 2025, and Siri said there's going to be a massive hurricane which is going to wipe Miami off of the planet, and it went viral. It's like, oh my God, Siri's telling the future. She knows what's going to happen. Turns out that more than likely what happened was there's a app you can use or whatever where you can download your own personal sort of things for Siri to say. If you give her like say, hey Siri, if I say what's going to happen in Miami in 2025, can you say this? And Siri has to, because they're, I hate to say it, they're a master, but they're the ones so they do it. So that's what they think is, but that's not going to happen. But so there's all kinds of people are talking about that something's going to happen, end of the world is going to happen on this date, it's going to happen on this date, it's going to happen on this date, blah, 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 so on and so forth. None of that has happened, obviously. We're still here, obviously. Surprise. But the newest one that came out is about the Large Hadron Collider. Now, I talked about this a few years ago when it got shut down. After a few years for repairs, they were going to repair it, update it. The Large Hadron Collider is a piece of scientific experiment where atoms get smashed into each other, and it can go in and they can examine the particles, and you can see particles better, and they've discovered new particles and stuff like that. And they shut it off because they've been able to upgrade it. So it took a few years. So it took about 3 years for it to upgrade. And so July 5th, they were going to turn it back on and turn up to the highest setting. Now, that freaked out all the conspiracy theorists nuts, because they claim that the Large Hadron Collider is responsible for opening holes into alternate dimensions. And in fact, when it was turned on in 2012, it helped bring about that the end of the world actually did happen in 2012, but because we don't have any recollection of it, is because we transported us into another dimension. Another dimension was compounded onto us, and took over that dimension, and we've been living that thing. And that was what they said started the whole Mandela effect thing that sort of came out now, where people started remembering things differently because they believe that this dimension went into another one, and in that dimension, that was where the things changed from this dimension, that sort of thing, where the whole Mandela effect thing happened, which I really don't believe in, but that's besides the point. So they believe that happened in 2012. Then they believe that years later, like 2017, something like that, that the Hadron Collider had created a mini black hole before it dissipated. I don't believe that either. But those are theories that they threw out there for whatever reason, and somehow they did. I don't know how or why, but that's how they did it. They discussed that. That's their conspiracies. And so, obviously, with the arrival of this July 5th being turned back on and turned to max power, they're going to be saying that it's going to be, opening, or they're going to open up a portal to hell, or we're going to open up a hole to another alternate dimension. And another thing is going to happen. We're going to have more Mandela effect things happen, blah, blah, blah. And so to combat this, the people who run the Large Hadron Collider, they've been seeing this also like, look, we'll live stream it so you can see that nothing's going wrong. So they were live streaming it, and they turned it on and nothing happened. Of course, conspiracy theorists are making stuff up as it is. But what did really happen is that it did its job. 3 brand new particles were discovered by the Large Hadron Collider. So that was this week in the apocalypse. I guarantee you we'll be seeing conspiracy theorists talk about this thing for the next few weeks. Something's going to happen in the next few weeks, and they're going to say, see, we told you. Still got 2 more pages to go. Damn. And we're at the 1:30 mark. So yeah, this is going to be about a 2-hour show, so let's move it along. A boy walks to school and stops to hug all the stray dogs he sees. That's kind of a cute, adorable sort of thing. That's kind of cool. Brian Michael Bendis, who is a comic book writer who's written for Marvel and DC and Independence, is writing a pilot for the Legion of Superheroes. I don't know for what company, if it's HBO Max or the WB or the CW or whatever, but he is apparently writing a pilot. I don't know if it's just that someone said, hey, can you write us a pilot? They'll film it, and then if it gets picked up, then we'll see what happens. So he is writing it. He had written the most recent iteration of Legion in the comic books. So they figured we may as well cover it, have him work on it since he just worked on them. Conan, I told you a couple weeks ago, Conan was the rights to do Conan comics was taken away from Marvel, and I think Titan Comics now has them to do it. Well, the final Conan comic came out this week. It was the last issue of King Conan, so there's no more Conan stuff from Marvel. Carlos Santana collapsed during a concert, but he is doing fine. According to more recent reports, he's recovering from his collapse. The National Treasure TV show on Disney Plus has got a name now. It is called National Treasure: Edge of History. I would assume that they're talking about this more and more. That might even make its way out to later this year or maybe early next year. So we'll see what happens. In local news, Jane Miller, a local television anchor person and investigative reporter, is retiring from Channel 11, where she's worked for 30 plus years. Had to have been more than that, maybe. The Grambling State volleyball coach was fired after they cut all 19 players on the team. Doesn't make sense why. I don't know. Maybe they were bad, but they didn't want to do that, so they fired him. Several fires have broken out at old RFK Stadium in the middle of Washington, D.C. I've said for a while now what the Washington Commanders need to do is they need to leave the stadium out in Maryland and go back to RFK Stadium. They need to either tear down RFK Stadium and rebuild it in the middle of Washington and turn that area into a an oasis and get the team back into Washington. But that's not gonna happen. But fires have broken out there, and I guess they've been taken care of because that was back around July 4th, and I haven't heard anything since then. Four fans, including an 11-year-old, were struck by bullets fired in the air on the 4th of July at the Oakland A's stadium, meaning there was nobody coming around shooting people at the stadium. Basically, people were celebrating the 4th of July by shooting their guns up in the air, but the bullets go up, they got to come back down somewhere. And the bullets rained down on a bunch of people at the Oakland A's stadium, and they were hit by the projectiles. Now, obviously, it wasn't like it was dead on, but so you're shooting it up in there, boom, it's going to go up and it's going to come down fast as well. So it's still going to be like as if you were hit by it. Now, there was an episode of the TV show Homicide where one of the they learned they had a death by shooting, which didn't make any sense because there was no witnesses, but there was nobody knew, nobody heard a gunshot, nobody saw anybody running away. This person was just found dead, and the bullet hole was in a weird spot. And eventually, the police discovered that someone else shot a gun up in the air, and the bullet went up, and then it's got to come back down, and it just happened to hit the guy right in the head, which come down fast like that, killed him instantly. So that stuff kind of happens. So that's why you don't shoot your guns up in the air, because the bullets will come back down. They don't just keep going up in outer space, man. They're going to go up, and as far as gravity will let them, and then it's going to go no, and it's still going to come down really fast. So about that. I said the Stranger Things 4 has passed 1 billion streams. I talked about that already. A Pokemon fan left a binder full of ultra rare cards from his late grandmother's at his grandmother's house, I guess, and someone, I guess, picked it up or threw it out or something. So that's kind of crazy. Never before seen crystals have been discovered in a perfectly preserved something dirt. So these crystals never before seen on this planet have been discovered in some dirt. Rare moment was captured with 30 hummingbirds in a swimming pool. So that was kind of cool. A wild 60-person brawl breaks out at a Carnival cruise ship after a threesome amongst the guests. I don't know exactly. There was, I guess, a threesome that someone had amongst the guests, and then there was an argument, and it spilled out into the cruise line, into the dinner or whatever. Maybe they were having dinner and talking about the threesome or whatever, and they started having a fight, and then they affected other people, and then it became a huge fight. So it's kind of interesting. Cinnamon Toast Crunch and Cocoa Puff Yoplait yogurt has been spotted out and about. So if you like that kind of stuff, go for it. I already did that one. Scientists are turning nuclear waste into diamond batteries that could last for thousands of years. That could be kind of interesting if they can do that, though it is nuclear waste, and I don't know the dangers in that, but I guess it's okay. We saw this trailer at the movies today. But I also saw before we went to the movies, Amsterdam, which is David O. Russell's return to filmmaking. It looks like it's set during like the 20s or 30s, and it's like an old school sort of whodunit sort of thing. The cast is amazing. It's got Christian Bale, Margot Robbie, and John David Washington, who is Denzel's son, are the main characters. You also have Chris Rock. You've got Robert De Niro, Rami Malek, Zoe Saldana, Mike Myers, Michael Shannon, Timmy Oliphant, Taylor Swift, and a bunch of other Anya Joy Swift or whatever, whatever, also is in it as well. And there's a couple others, famous people in there too. But a pretty good cast, and we'll see what happens with that. And then we also got the Clerks 3 trailer from Kevin Smith, which is a very meta trailer. Basically, he returns to where he started his film career at the place where he actually worked, and basically one of the characters from the original Clerks movie ends up having a heart attack, much like how Kevin Smith did, and decides he needs to do something more with his life. So he decides to make a movie about his life at this Quickie Mart store, which is what Kevin Smith ended up doing. So the trailer looks, kind of funny, but it also has, it's heartwarming moments, stuff like that. So good on that for him. James Cameron is an old man yelling at clouds. He doesn't care if you think Avatar 2 is going to be too long. It looks right now to be about a 3-hour plus movie, and he doesn't care if you complain about it. He'd rather you wouldn't whine and bitch about it, because you sit and you watch you binge watch TV shows, so 3 hours in a movie theater shouldn't kill you. But it's also, you want it in 3D, James, and those glasses can affect your sight after a while. And when you're binging shows from your house, you can pause it. You can put on closed captioning. You can pause it and go get something to eat, go to the bathroom, whatever. And 3 hours is a long time. And he also says that he may not be directing Avatar 4 and 5. Well, then don't do an Avatar 4 and 5. Just end it at 3 and let's move on. But if you want to do a 4 and 5, be your guest. So if you're not going to be directing it, why would anybody want to go see it anyway? So we'll see. Michael Mann, who really hasn't been doing much lately, but apparently he wrote a sequel novel to his hit movie Heat, starring Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and Val Kilmer. And he wants to turn his novel into a movie, a sequel to his movie Heat. Problem is that this novel takes place literally a minute after the end of the movie, which came out in the 90s. So Pacino, De Niro, and Kilmer are all older. Kilmer has an issue where he can't speak too much. So you can always, I guess, use de-aging, but that doesn't seem to work. And it's going to focus on Val Kilmer's character who escaped from it. So we'll see how they decide to do it, but he wants to make it into a movie, so we'll see what he plans on doing. Chris Evans will be teaming up with Emily Blunt in a new Netflix film called Pain Hustlers. Don't know much about it except for the name of the movie. George Clooney's Batman nipple suit is going to auction with an opening bid of $40,000. So we'll see how much that sells for. If it will sell for that much, we'll see. But it is I guess one of those game worn ones. So you have George Clooney's nipple suit for sale now. So that's interesting. I should have probably put this in This Week in the Apocalypse, but NASA, last week I told you about there was a strange rocket crash on the moon, and most people believed it was just debris from the various satellites circling the Earth made their way out eventually to the moon. Well, turns out that what crashed on the moon was actually a Chinese rocket. But it was just one rocket, so how come there were two craters? So now the conspiracy theorists are going out there now saying that that China is going to be taking over the moon as their sort of base. So because they're already on the far side of the moon with their rover, so we'll see what happens about that. I don't believe it, but we'll see. They don't know why a rocket would make two craters instead of just one, so there's also something with it or on it, or something happened and they don't know, so we'll find out more. Personal stuff again. We live there are woods back there, and we sometimes get animals come up onto our deck. We've had raccoons up there many times, and we had one named Rocket. Came see us a couple of years ago. Was very young and cute, and would come right up to the door and do all kinds of stuff. And I had to chase him up, and then we'd see him periodically over the last few years. And then I think I saw a big chunky one a couple weeks ago. Again, I should say actually a couple months ago, which I thought was Rocket now all grown up, and I scared him away too. So last weekend we were watching Ghostbusters Afterlife. My wife and daughter wanted to watch it. And while we're watching it, my wife just happened to notice that there was a raccoon out on the deck. So we turned on the light, and it was another young one, and this time it was a female. And she came right up to the door, just like Rocket used to, and was peering in, and then was digging through our recyclable bin and grabbed Dr. Pepper can. And then was thinking about jumping on the trash can, but then ended up running away and skittering down the pole, and we haven't seen her since. I knew she came back later that night because I put the can back in the recycle bin. And when I came downstairs the next morning, it was out on the deck again. I haven't seen her since, but my daughter decided to call her Rockette. So that's kind of funny. All right, we're on my last page now. Can I get this done in 2 hours? We'll see. I was kind of hoping my wife would go to bed because I kind of like having my own chill down time. For an hour, I want to grab some ice cream and eat it from the pint, but if she's going to be up there, I can't do that. But she's still up there, so we'll see what happens. Mike Epps has joined the Madam Web movie. That one is starting to get a good cast, and this is the first male actor I've seen in there. A DoorDash glitch has allowed users to order all free food and drink, all the free food and drink that they wanted. They fixed it eventually, but for a while there, people were just ordering all kinds of stuff when they discovered they could do it for free. And I think they still had to deliver it. I'm not exactly sure. Now we know Spider-Man No Way Home is going to be coming back in the theater in September with an extended edition. But before then, if you want to see the regular edition on streaming, it will be available on Netflix next week. Actually this week, because it is the 10th. So it's in 3 days. On Wednesday, July 13th, Spider-Man No Way Home comes to Netflix. Austin Butler, is being eyed to play Green Arrow in the DC Cinematic Universe, whatever they decide to do a Green Arrow movie, maybe with the Black Canary solo film they're still thinking about doing. That could be he. Austin Butler's the one who's playing Elvis in the new Baz Luhrmann movie. He kind of looks the part. Could be a good Oliver Queen, I think. And Taron Egerton, I guess from the Kingsman movies, is saying he met with Marvel in hopes that he would be cast as Wolverine. So we'll see. I don't know. A rare black jaguar was born at a sanctuary. So I talked about those a couple weeks ago, but another one has come out there. Disney Plus is doing a full Monty reunion TV show. But one of the actors, Hugo Spear, I think, played the handsome young gay guy with a big dick. He got fired from it for inappropriate conduct. So he's not going to be in it. I think I talked about this last week, but here it is again. People who read live longer than those who don't, a Yale researcher says. Moms who swear make better parents. I think I've talked about that one before too. Rob Zombie's PG-rated Monsters film has. We very well could see that in time for the fall. So we'll see if that actually is going to happen. Baby Yoda Monopoly is coming out soon. So if you like your Baby Yoda, Grogu, whatever, Monopoly, go for it. A regular tiger, the Sumatran tiger, so a regular tiger gave birth to 3 cubs at a Toronto zoo after a 104-day pregnancy. So that's kind of interesting. Joey Chestnut, who I thought wasn't going to be at the hot dog eating contest, Nathan's hot dog eating contest, because he injured himself beforehand, actually did make it to the contest and won his 15th Nathan's hot dog eating contest while being attacked by protesters and being injured. So he still was able to win that. Godzilla vs. King Kong sequel will be coming out March 15th, 2024. I think I talked about that before as well. Kate Bush is back in the news again for her song "Going Up the Hill," which was used in Stranger Things season 4, and people have rediscovered it, love the song, so they've downloaded it and it turned it into the #1 song in America for a couple weeks running now. Jack FM, which is a station I listen to here locally, which plays songs from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s somewhat. But they play like similar songs all the time. On Friday, while I was loading up the UPS truck, they played that song on the station. So I'm hoping it's going to be in regular rotation now. It makes perfect sense to me to do that. But she now has 3 world records to her name for this song. The first one is the longest time for a song to hit number 1 in the UK. She's the oldest female to reach #1 and the longest gap between #1 spots on UK's singles chart, which means basically, the one that was #1 before Kate Bush came. When Kate Bush took it over, there was a huge gap between them. So those are the 3 awards that she has. The song has done. And the Master of Puppets song from Metallica that was used in the final chapter of the final volume of Stranger Things Volume 4 has also become a download hit. Not quite as popular as Running Up That Hill, but it's up there. Orphan baby kangaroo hugs its teddy bear and treats it as a companion. Hopefully someone is going to help out that orphan. An orphan seal is rescued by a group of cows and returned to the ocean. That's kind of an interesting story, but it's fun to see that. Fantastic Beasts 3, which did not do very well in the movie theaters, actually has been doing extraordinarily well on streaming. So maybe that was where they should have sent it in the first place. A possible Sasquatch skull has been discovered in British Columbia. There's been a lot of people saying that it's been debunked and stuff like that, but I keep seeing the story on a bunch of different things. So I thought I'd drop that here. And the final story for this week, maybe before the 2-hour mark, is a Pokemon Go spoofer. Now, spoofers are guys or gals coordinates in their Pokemon Go so that they end up like going to Australia or a spot in Australia or India or England and not actually having to travel there. And they're battles there and spin Pokestops and catch Pokemon in those areas. It's illegal, and Pokemon Go tends to usually catch the people who spoof them and ban them from the game. But in this case, a Pokemon Go spoofer decided that they wanted to try something different and something unusual and something fun. So they spoofed to the coordinates of where the Titanic is. Now, remember, the Titanic was discovered back in the 80s and has been investigated by James Cameron and other people. And in fact, James Cameron filmed bits of Titanic, the movie, by the site. Anyway, so we found the coordinates, and it's right there where the Titanic sank. And he was hoping that maybe he could catch a Pokemon, particularly a water type, he was hoping. but no Pokemon were showing up because it's the middle of the ocean and there's no Pokestops. That's the only way to get it. So he decided to throw down an incense, which is a way to draw the attention of Pokemon. And hey, sure enough, a Pokemon showed up. Now, it wasn't a water type. I believe it was a ladybug, which is a bug type, bug flying. And he caught it, but he caught a Pokemon at the site of the Titanic's resting spot. All right, everybody, that is episode 454, Space Goats. Hope you enjoyed it. Definitely go see Thor Love and Thunder. I highly recommend it. I think you'll like it. Ignore what the reviewers are saying. I think it's a lot better than people are giving it credit for. And I can't wait to see it again. Next week is another kind of boring week. I don't think anything really exciting is going on. So we'll see what happens. But hopefully it won't be a bad week, and hopefully we'll get some interesting stuff to talk about. And we're now getting into the dog days of summer. There is no holiday now until Labor Day in September. Still baseball, but they're going to be hitting their all-star break really, really soon. In fact, it might be this week, maybe. I think it's next week, but we'll see. But they'll be hitting their all-star break soon, and football training camps will start later this month, but not this week. So this week's just going to be kind of, we'll see what happens. But 5 days of work. What do we got weather-wise here? Presently 64 degrees in Reisterstown with fog. We're looking at 86 degrees and sunny tomorrow. 82 degrees today. Excuse me, because it's already Sunday. 82 degrees today. Monday, looking at 86 degrees and sunny. Tuesday, we're looking at 91 and 30% chance of rain. Wednesday, we're looking at 90 and partly sunny. Thursday, we're looking at 88, partly sunny. Friday, we're looking at partly sunny, 84. Saturday, we're looking at partly sunny, 88. Next Sunday, we're looking at 90 degrees and 30% chance of rain. Next Monday, we're looking at 91 degrees and 40% chance of rain. And next Tuesday, we're looking at 90 degrees and a 60% chance of rain. So normal temperatures for this time of the year, nothing extraordinarily hot. 90s are rough, but they're not 100 degrees or 97. And hopefully maybe the humidity will not be so high. So on that note, I'm going to finish up now. Hopefully, once I get up there, she's going to leave so I can relax a little bit and maybe go to bed at 3 o'clock, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, we're done. Nope, she's still. I wish you go to bed. Please go to bed. Please, when I get there, just see you're tired and go to bed. But I don't think she's going to, because I want to eat some ice cream, but I don't want to eat it in front of her because she's like, "Why are you eating out of the pint?" Oh, well, anyway, it doesn't matter. So I'm done. Go see Thor, Love and Thunder. I think Miss Marvel's final episode is this week, so we'll talk about that as well. And that's really the only thing I can think of that's really rolling through here. As I said, Spider-Man No Way Home will be on Netflix starting on Wednesday. So we'll see what happens. So I'm done here. The Chris Evans Russo Brothers movies next weekend, I think. So we got that coming up too. I think Community Day is next weekend, so we got that as well. So we'll see. We got things happening, and we'll see. So take care of yourselves. Go see Thor, Love, and Thunder. Trust me on this. I think you're really going to like it. I'm going to push this on everybody. So take care. I'm going to try to click this like I was trying to get this to be the right time. Let's see if I can get it done. Let's do this.